Two of my favorite DreamWorks animated features are the How to Train Your Dragon films, and as a fan of those movies, I've heard quite a number of positive things about the Netflix series Dragons Race to the Edge, which is set in between the events of the two big-screen adventures. After watching 5 seasons worth of the show, I think it is a more than worthy addition to the franchise, nicely expanding on the characters, the dragons, and the world surrounding Berk. Usually, with animated series based on movies, the canon flies out the window, but the team behind Race to the Edge do make an effort to have the series line up with the lore already established by Chris Sanders and Dean DuBois. By setting it in between the two films, they do have an advantage in knowing how Berk has evolved and attempt to fill in the blanks. One notable detail is in the character designs. The dragon riders are clearly older than they were in the first How to Train Your Dragon, but aren't yet at the maturity level depicted in the sequel. Speaking of the dragon riders, that seems to be where the focus lies in Race to the Edge. At first I was surprised that the series is more so about the whole team dynamic. One of my favorite aspects of the dragon films is the bond between Hiccup and Toothless. We still see the connection the two have, but the writers seem primarily intent in showcasing the other team members. While Astrid is a major character in the movies, Fishleg, Snotlout, and the twins, Roughnut and Toughnut, are used as comic relief. With the additional time the series provides, they are allowed to be fleshed out a little more, with episodes centering around them. The new characters are solid additions, and are utilized just enough and given their own identities and their own conflicts that I'm not wondering where they are during the events of How to Train Your Dragon 2. It should be pointed out that Race to the Edge is a follow-up to 2 Dragon series that aired on Cartoon Network, that are not on Netflix for some reason. And seeing as I have not seen those earlier shows, it took me a little while to understand the context of new characters like Heather and Dagger. Oh, hello, don't think we've met. Hiccup, do you mind explaining? No? I'm gonna have to read the wiki page? Okay. Through most of the series, the central antagonists are Dagger and Vigo, dragon hunters continually on a quest to catch and tame dragons. This plot thread leads to one of the most exciting aspects of Race to the Edge, which is seeing the new dragons created for the show. In addition to adding to the history of the dragons, we learn about how they function, their primitive traits, and what makes each unique. We even find out what dragons do when they reach retirement age, which leads to an excellent episode where the riders are stuck on an island and some tough statue dragons try and prevent them from leaving. While most episodes do involve Hiccup attempting to train a dragon, they never feel repetitive, as the writers come up with multiple scenarios and conflicts. Sometimes the dragons are the problem, and at other times the dragon hunters interfere. There's even an episode where Astrid is blinded, and another where Hiccup has a bounty on his head, as the dragon riders are frequently given new tests with each episode. The series MacGuffin is a special projector called a dragon eye, and some of the most interesting conflicts do come from the war between Hiccup and Vigo for possession of it, and the various lenses that make it work. It creates the necessary conflict between the two, and Vigo does serve as a strong foil for Hiccup. So does Dagger to an extent, although he does evolve and develop with each appearance, allowing him to be more than just your standard villain. My major criticism I tend to have of Race to the Edge is its penchant for comic book deaths. By that I mean it has a habit of seemingly giving finality to a character, which should allow for more stakes, and shows the dangers that can come from this war between dragon riders and hunters. But then it turns out they're okay. Considering this is based on a movie series that had no qualms about removing its lead protagonist's foot, or killing off a certain beloved character in an emotional climax, I expected to take more chances in that regard. One aspect I actually prefer here over the movies is the relationship between Hiccup and Astrid. I always found their sudden romance in How to Train Your Dragon was not properly developed, and did not add a whole lot to the story. Through most of the Netflix series, they are teammates, and romance is barely even mentioned, with only small hints here and there. Astrid even denies any romantic feelings towards Hiccup whenever Heather brings it up. Only later do the writers start showing their growing mutual love, but gradually, so it feels more earned. While Race to the Edge obviously does not have the high budgets of the movies, the animation is still very good for a computer-animated television series. The character animation is mostly fluid, and the water and fire effects are excellent. The flying scenes don't feel like a downgrade at all, as the camera swerves and moves, and we see the wind flowing through their hair, and the animators have definitely studied how the dragons take off and soar. This is especially important for Toothless, whose tail is an integral part of his flying. Some of the backgrounds can look a little bare, but for the most part, the production designers create a solid batch of islands for the writers to visit, and a lot of care has been put into the geography of their second home, the Edge. John Powell's music is also nicely arranged here, being utilized in all the proper spots, while John Paisano's new compositions fit in perfectly with the How to Train Your Dragon universe. The series also brings back as many of the original voice actors from the movies as possible. The only writers not without the original voices are Snotlout and Ruffnut, but Zach Perlman and Andrew Vermeulen more than succeed in filling in for Jonah Hill and Kristen Wiig respectively. Stoic and Gobber also have different voices, but they're not in this show as much as you would expect. But we do get Alfred Molina, who brings the proper villainous vocal quality to Vigo. In conclusion, if you are a fan of the How to Train Your Dragon movies, Dragon's Race to the Edge more than works as a great companion piece. DreamWorks Animation has done a really good job of expanding on their properties with their Netflix series, and I look forward to where the future seasons bring Hiccup, Astrid, and the rest of the dragons and their riders. If you're eagerly awaiting the release of How to Train Your Dragon 3 next year, this series should more than keep you occupied. See you next time.